Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, well-wishers, Darshan and Rosie, all the way from the two extreme end of Guyana. Let me say it's really a shame that, a 36% increase in the national budget as indicated by Nigel only result in a 15% or less allocation to agriculture, when more than 40% of the employment and the livelihood of families, especially in rural Guyana, comes from agriculture. It is a shame, an indictment of successive administration and their leadership when a farmer cannot maintain the livelihood of his family, cannot send his kids to school, the dream of providing proper education and getting them out of agriculture cannot be realized because of the failure of that leadership. And yet, even though the evidence are abundant all across Guyana, particularly rural Guyana, we still hear politicians saying, we're giving a good life and you should vote for us. And what they do, they appeal to ethnic insecurity, to racism, in order to polarize people. Since independence, the racial division has never stopped, and this election, it is getting more and more. The prospect of putting their hands on oil revenue has made them so divisive and so quarrelsome that even in our schools today, as Rosie mentioned, even our schools, you see the violence and the anger is reflected because of what they see on national TV, what they see in the media, what they hear in their community, and what they feel at home when parents have to struggle to make ends meet. That's the sad tale of Guyana today. But today, we're addressing the agricultural sector with particular reference to rice being 40% of the agricultural output in Guyana. The rice industry spans the entire coast of Guyana and employs thousands of rural families. It contributes US $186 million, or 40% of the agricultural output. The sector contributes 12% of the GDP and the largest portion of employment in Guyana. The industry is fully in private sector ownership, comprising rice millers and farmers all across the coastline. It is the economic pillar of families in these rural communities for more than a century. In 2018, the industry produced 970,000 metric tons of paddy and exported 470,000 tons of rice, valued at $186 million. Lingering problems in the agricultural sector. Increased regulations and bureaucratic imposition, disorganization and management of the drainage and irrigation systems. This area and its funding is managed by three entities that are often in conflict: the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, the regional administrations, and water users. The current problems in East Berbice, where the regional administration is saying that it has no money to pump water in the Blackbush polder area and needs some 40 million, is typical of the level of disorganization in this important function. The role of the GRDB in promoting the development of the industry via research and quality control is found wanting. Instead of its imposition of increased regulation and the hiking of export fees, now at $8 per metric ton, these activities slows exports and makes it more expensive. In other words, the administrative and research function of the GRDB is found wanting, and its relevance to the private sector in question. It is noteworthy that the rice industry contributes $4.5 million to the GRDB, representing some $150 per bag of paddy. Next problem, the political domination of the GRDB. This is an area of major concern to rice millers and farmers. Though through its appointments to the board, the government exercises its direction and will on a private sector controlled industry. Farm roads are in bad state and budgetary allocations are needed in this area. Big, expensive government bureaucracy imposes high tax on the sector, as with other sectors. The problems of the rice industry mirrors that of the other agricultural sectors, poultry, ground provisions, fruits and vegetables, etc. VAT on capital equipment makes investments in the agricultural sector expensive. Marketing, product development, support for exports is lacking. No new agricultural product has reached significant export scale in the last 3 decades. Despite this, the potential exists for large-scale agricultural development in the area of poultry, coconut, limes, lemons, avocados, oranges, cocoa, etc. In addition, livestock development, generally including dairy and beef, and also pork and tilapia. Development in these areas would ignite rapid development of the Guyanese economy with thousands of jobs. Election after election, the two dominant parties continue to promise the development of the intermediate savannas. Yet those promises continue to fail because of allocation of lands to the wrong persons, poor infrastructure, and high taxation. Macroeconomic factors of crime, poor infrastructure, blackouts, high taxation, and an inefficient government bureaucracy all affect this and other sectors of the economy. High cost of borrowing is a significant deterrent. Our plan. We commit to remove VAT on all capital equipment for rice and the agricultural sector generally. Where there is import duties, these will be removed. No one would need to go to a Go Invest or a minister, as the tax code would be adjusted accordingly. Staged investments to improve infrastructure in agriculture areas all across Guyana will improve access, productivity, reduce post-harvest losses, and stimulate investments. Without the infrastructure, there can be no investments. And that brings back the point that Nigel mentioned. Even though agriculture allocation only raised by $2 billion, the Ministry of Presidency has $10 billion, when the wider agricultural sector only have $17 billion. We will elevate the quality of medical care in rural areas to reduce reliance on facilities in Georgetown. Medical care in rural communities also affect the communities in rural Guyana. We'll reform the GRDB to remove political domination and improve its research and development capability. We'll cut the high cost of export of rice, including the Export Commission, to GRDB. We will mandate GRA to absorb the cost of scanning export containers. We will inspire a culture of service to the agriculture sector by the Ministry of Agriculture instead of the current display of indifference and being served mentality. Fiscal incentives for export development in all areas of the sector. Convert NARI into a research and development entity to prepare project profile of new crops for plantation-style development. The agriculture sector has the potential to make Guyana the breadbasket of the region, similar to neighboring Brazil, and to become a bigger contributor to economic development than oil and gas, given our rich agricultural landmass and bountiful water resources. But it requires strategic planning, prudent execution, and significant private sector investments. Improving the ease of doing business by dismantling bureaucratic obstacles, together with attractive fiscal incentives and land reform, will go a far way in achieving this goal. Change Guyana will make this a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to add that the agricultural sector is very dear to me. I started my working life in the fields of Gaisuco immediately after high school at the age of 17. Through hard work, I earned a Gaisuco scholarship, through which I completed a diploma in agriculture. I then, while on the sugar estate, studied accountancy during my free time and completed the ACCA in 2 years of study, a record that exists to this day. I started my business trading rice, used the profits of my success to enter the poultry industry, which I expanded and modernized. I then invested in a state-of-the-art parboiled rice plant and created a brand of rice that dominates supermarkets throughout the CARICOM region. In the process, I have created many jobs. I know this sector, and my leadership with that of Nigel and the group will bring transformative economic leaps to it and to all Guyanese. A low growth or no growth economy of the PPP and now APNU, based on high taxes and big government, cannot provide the resources to deal with crime, remove blackouts, provide high-paying jobs, and change the tide of migration of our youths. A radical, transformative way of thinking and doing business is needed to reverse that tide of economic underdevelopment for the benefit of all. Others have been tried and tested. They repeatedly failed. Only the proven leadership of Change Guyana can do it. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a point on agriculture, how it has been diminished by successive administrations. Currently, the budget for agriculture stands at 17 billion, while the Ministry of the Presidency stands at 10 billion. And when you put this in the context of what agriculture can do for the country in terms of employment and alleviating poverty, you're looking at over 75,000 just straight off the top in the agriculture industry out of a workforce of about 300,000. That's about 25% at the minimum. I've seen figures that persons in the agriculture industry, employed in the agricultural industry, are as high as 40%. But yet we have a ballooning Ministry of the Presidency with innumerable departments and ministers, and it speaks to the building bureaucracy that has stymied growth in this country and has kept us in this underdeveloped state. and it needs to be addressed, and this is why we feel our message of economic empowerment and tax incentives, incentivizing local businesses will make a big difference and move away from this heavy-handed government. I'd just like to touch on some outliers with regards to the agricultural industry within which sugar and rice falls. We've had a 36% increase in the budget from 220 billion to 300 billion from 2014 to 2019. And agriculture has increased by less than 3% in terms of the budget, from 15 billion to 17 billion. So that indicates a thorough neglect of the emphasis on agriculture and the priority, or rather the lack of priority given to agricultural activity. It would be remiss of me not to mention one of the harshest economic measures ever to take place in this country in our 53 years of independence, when 4 sugar estates were closed between 2016 and 2017, starting with Wales and extending to Rose Hall, Skeldon, and Rose Hall, Skeldon, and Enmore, that devastated and put a lot of persons, 7,000 persons, out of being able to earn and support their families. And along with this, we would have had the multiplier effect where they were unable also to provide for their children. They couldn't attend to school. They couldn't have taken care of their medical needs. And we were in Berbice last weekend, East Quarantine, Berbice, Region 6, and from New Amsterdam down to Skeldon, we traveled, and we heard of the horror stories and the poverty and the hardships that are being encountered because of this unconsulted and unrecommended action, because we had a commission of inquiry set up by the president, which clearly said that no closure should take place until a thorough review and feasibility study was done, and it certainly should not occur within before 3 years, which would have been sometime in 2018. And even though the recommendation said one thing, the actions taken said another. So it's really an inexcusable act, and it has devastated the sugar industry. And now we're dealing with a situation where you have a NISEL oversight of the sugar industry that is very puzzling in terms of the special project units they've set up that have secured 30 billion in loans that they're paying interest on, and they probably haven't used 10% of those monies as yet, and the interest costs 4.5% per year. That works out to about $1.5 billion each year we're paying in interest on a loan facility that is not being used. These monies could be paid to our 7,000 teachers, give them over $200,000 per year, just to show the wastage and the lack of focus that has gone into this process. As we go further, I'll discuss some of the issues concerning rice, but at this time, I'd like to invite Rosie Mohammed to say a few words to you. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the media and guests. I would like to thank Mr. Robert Badal and Mr. Nigel Hines of Change Guyana for giving me this opportunity to be here today. It is great honor and privilege to endorse Change Guyana. My name is Razana Mohammed, also known as Rosie Mohammed. I am from Corriverton, Barbies. I am a teacher at Springlands Nursery School. My personal mission is to spread awareness on bullying and school violence and to help the youth of this country to be good model citizens. As a parent with 2 children, I firmly believe that our school system needs to be revised to be better equipped to face the daily challenges our young people are facing today. Policies must be put into places to act as checks and balance so that there can be early detection of violence and bullying in the schools to reduce the growing incidence of violence presently happening. Sadly, we live in a society where violence is an everyday thing, which is now seeped into our schools. Today, I took up this opportunity because of my personal experiences, of which my child was the victim. My daughter, who is a 5th form student at Tagore Memorial Secondary School, was attacked and beaten by a gang of girls. Her hijab was ripped off and other students were cheering on while she was attacked. The children made videos and were circulating it on social media and in the school. The school welfare did an investigation, but in the end, the children were asked to do a mere apology to my daughter. No proper counseling was done to these children. These children need professional help and counseling. My daughter, who is a victim, is traumatized, and I'm pleading with the Ministry of Education to send their mobile psychosocial unit to counsel her and the other children. The police did an investigation, and I was told that the file was sent to DPP. I am waiting to hear from that office, as I strongly feel that my daughter was assaulted. I never wanted another child or another mother to experience what we went through. It was an awful experience. As a mother, I am deeply hurt and disappointed that the system failed us. A few weeks later, an 8-year-old kid from Monrepo Primary was badly beaten by his classmate and is still hospitalized. Another kid, 6-year-old, from the same school had his hand gashed and he is still out of school. The ministry now has 3 units, but none has seen the urgency to visit these 2 kids and offer their help. As a matter of fact, the mother who is here today told me he has started to act out and get angry. She is frustrated and she doesn't know how to help him. Student fights, as you know, there is nothing unusual about that, were the words uttered by our Minister of Education, normalizing violent behavior in school. In my opinion, there must be a zero-tolerance policy toward any form of violence. Cyberbullying is becoming more of a problem too. The use of cell phones and other electronic devices to harass, intimidate, bully, and text messages and posting of videos is now prevalent. With these advanced forms of bullying, the schools are incapable of dealing with these issues. New ground rules need to be put into place and enforced. Consequences and penalties for students must be adhered to so that discipline can be restored in the school system. I live in Barbies. I am a proud Barbician, but my heart bleeds every day to see the deprivation and devastation of Barbies. In addition to violence, joblessness, crime, substandard education, lack of market for produce, pollution of our water, and drug abuse, to name a few. Daily blackouts, deplorable infrastructure, and high taxes just make the pain worse. This is not the Barbies I want to live in. Many young people are leaving, but I will stay and fight for a change. That is why I'm standing here today to embrace and endorse Change Guyana. Mr. Badal and Mr. Hines are focused on economic development, and I know that they know development starts from the nursery school to university, and they will address the deficiencies of the education so our youth can be prepared to lead the economic development Guyana so badly needs. I encourage you all to join Change Guyana and be part of the solution and not the problem. Thank you once again. May God help us.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. A pleasant good morning to each and every one of you, the media, special invitees, members of the head table, Mr. Badal and Mr. Hines. Let me thank you for having me on board with you, wonderful people. I believe I have made the right choice now. I believe the people of this country need a change. Especially where I come from a village, a region named Region Number 2. Region Number 2 is Pomeroon Supernam, a wonderful region. And I believe people have now understand they had enough of the coalition government and the PPP. Both of them had opportunity in the past of running this country. And the fact remains that he had been proven and shown that this country has remained the same. Presently now, in my region, Region Number 2, is a rice farming region. And there is serious concern about farming in our region. I could assure you, and this is the fact, up to last crop, Region 2, some of the rice farmers did not get to reap because they get up to $500 to $300 bag for paddy. Terrible situation. And you know, when rice in our region is not doing well, the whole region has been affected, has been punished. And you know, this crop was a terrible one again, where a lot of rice farmers have lost their produce, did not get to cut not even a single bag of paddy. And what do you think happens? There is poor representation on behalf of rice farmer in our region. They go and they say yes, they will help, but the help never comes. The people are still waiting, they're promising, they are still waiting. So I believe these two gentlemen, Mr. Badal and Mr. Hine, has been proven in the past as economics and business people has been the right choice for the people of this country. And I believe they will do an excellent job coming up and be a part and work along with the people of this country. What is important is to put the people first, right? And you must be honest and fair to each and every single person. We are a race of 6 people. 6, and we need to work together to achieve and develop our country. Sometimes, if we start and ask ourselves what Guyana will become the next 5 years from now, is a big question. Especially in my region, where there is nothing for young people. Job employment has become a major problem in our country, where young people is concerned. And when young people become very frustrated, not being employed, nothing to do, the devil take over. And you all know crime rate in our country has been very, very, very high. And that because our country has not been managing effectively, poor management and everything. Job employment is one of our major problems in Region 2. And I believe in Guyana as a whole. And young people need to be active. They need to be working. So I believe, and I must thank Change Guyana to having me on board. I want to ensure them that I will work tremendously to ensure that we work together, build this party together, that we can have great representation and move Guyana forward. With this few words, I want to thank you all tremendously, and may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much.